Welcome to the Here Lies Metal Top 20 of 2020. And you might have noticed that every other metal publication out there is doing this sort of thing as they've always have. And of course, we're no different.
Just as a note, my criteria for picking these was just stuff that really resonated with me for unknown reasons. I developed strange emotional attachments to. And when I listened to as many albums as I did, just very briefly, the albums that made my first round was 349. So we're not even counting albums that didn't make the first round that I listened to. I don't even know how much that is. Second round was 190. And my short list was 107 albums. And here we are at 20.
Okay, bring up the graphics. Number 20. This is 20 going down to 1, obviously. This isn't the best one. This is the least best one.
We need an announcer voice.
Well, number 20. Ice War with Defender Destroyer.
Ice War is a heavy metal, speed metal band from Ottawa, Canada. And it is a one-man band. Our friend Joe Capitale-Side. And here he is with his 4th album. What I liked about this album was just how incredibly exuberant, catchy, it's very punky, and it's very positive. It's like a posy album. But he's also, you feel like he's fighting the good fight. He's fighting a just war, the Ice War.
Anyone, named Joe Capitale-Side probably has, they have a goal, they have a mission, right? And we're not sure what that mission is, but it's probably something that he considers positive. But, so I think this is a positive album. And this is my favorite kind of distorted pop, I think, and it's distorted pop, by the way, to be clear. And, something to know about in Canada, the cold, they know the cold.
Ice War for your raw, primitive, new wave of British heavy metal stripped down needs.
Yeah, stripped down.
Check it out.
Yeah. Number 19, Persekutor with a K with Permanent Winter. More winter. It's cold out and metal is cold this year. What do we got about this?
Persekutor, Metal Archives calls them black metal. I think that's a little misleading. This is black and roll, certainly black metal influenced. So slow, it's practically doom. This stuck out to me because its approach to black metal, black and roll is a bit unique for what's going around in that genre. And it's got a very distinct sound. It's got this very crisp as ice production that will just slice right through your feeble little brain. And it's a fun album, and I like fun shit. So, and it's dumb, but it knows it's dumb, and I like dumb things too. So, that's why Persekutor's on the list.
I think Vlad the Inhaler is very upset about you saying it's dumb. He put a lot of energy into this.
Permanent Winter, check it out if you like slow, menacing, but stupidly fun.
Sense of humor.
Black and roll.
Mm-hmm. 18, Warp Chamber with Implements of Excruciation. That's a hard one to say.
I don't know what that means. I should have looked it up. But Warp Chamber is a death metal band from somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I couldn't find a lot out about these guys. They're kind of an enigma. I don't know who their members are, and we just have a general area for where they might be at any given time. I don't know. I think they would claim that. Anyway, this is their first album, and it is 30 minutes, 4 songs, and it is not death doom. This is 7-minute plus songs of intense, raw riffing. There's like maybe a few like hard noisescapes in there, like as for like transitions, not overused at all. And it's just full of riffs, and they're all like mind-bending and adventurous. They're spacefaring riffs, and space is a hellscape. And
no, it's not. It's a nice place. Stop saying that.
And there's a gutter vocal on here. It's down there in the gutter. It's like underneath the riffs, menacing you. It's an ultra-terrestrial, and it's warning you about the lurking horrors of the warp chamber.
What's ultra-terrestrial as opposed to extraterrestrial?
That's acknowledging
that
it's a creature that's not necessarily from space, but in another dimension. And I think a warp chamber could get you to another dimension. So.
Okay, so like Lovecraftian, maybe. Okay, maybe Lovecraftian.
I'm leaving it open.
The horrors of the corners of the eldritch horrors that lie in wait from the constellation of Betelgeuse. Like this album, it's kind of like about like maybe if your warp chamber malfunctioned and you ended up in hell, kind of like the movie Event Horizon or something, where, like the negatives, or like the video game Doom or something. I don't know, like where you're playing with some kind of science and it brings out hell, right? Is that what we're talking about here? I think maybe.
I don't know. I don't know what the vocal was saying, and no mortal does. But yes, Warp Chamber, very promising debut album, and
I'd like to believe that though. It's like Eldritch horrors. Anyway.
All right.
Number 17, Tyranno-March of Death. As if there's any other kind of marches. Anyway.
March for life. Anyway, Tyranno. This is classified, I've seen, as a thrash / black thrash. This is too many SHs for me to say. Doom band from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And this is their second album. What this really is a Celtic Frost sound-alike. Finally, a very basic-ass Celtic Frost sound-alike. And this is exactly what I needed. This is the only album in 2020 I found that sounded like this. I listen to a lot of music that sounds very old and sounds a lot like other bands.
I think it all does.
I'm fine with that.
Does.
But no one else sounds exactly like this. I mean, I hope they start a new wave of sounding exactly like Celtic Frost, because that would be fine. So yeah, it stood out to me a lot because of that. But it is very high quality. It's got this very menacing swagger to it, and it's really fun to listen to. It's a very enjoyable listen.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands that sound like Celtic Frost, but not exactly. These guys are really just carbon copying, and that's fine. I'm not like, these guys won't get an original. There is no original sound. Original sounds suck these days. Okay, let's do this.
Celtic Frost.
Yes. But some bands, a lot of bands these days choose Slayer. A lot of them choose like old death metal, and some choose to sound like Tommy G. Warrior. And Tyranno chose wisely.
We salute you for that. Thank you, Tyranno.
Number 16, Lucifuge, The One Great Curse. The One Great Curse.
All right, Lucifuge. This is a speed metal / black thrash one-man band from Bremen, Germany. And this is his third album. And he was a one-man band at the time of this album. Apparently, he has recruited some members, so maybe there's some big things in the work for Lucifuge. And what I really got about me is the riffs on this album. I don't know if I've mentioned the riffs yet. It's very interesting guitar work, interesting riffs. Otherwise, he draws pretty heavily on stuff like Midnight, doing like a kind of slightly blues-tinged, very raw speed metal. And maybe a little bit more menacing than Midnight. But yes, very excited to see what comes from this band. And thank you so much for remastering, because it made me very happy.
So I think, do you know what a Lucifuge is? I just looked this up. I never knew.
It's a real word?
Yeah, I thought it was like a word Danzig made up. He's like, I'm going to call it Lucifuge. See, it's like a loose and it goes around in circles. That's what you think of Lucifuge is, something that goes around. It's like a centrifuge.
What is it?
Okay.
Tell me what it is.
Okay, so a Lucifuge is a person. It's a name. It's a first name. I forget what the last name was. It doesn't matter, though. Lucifuge is actually the name of the head of government, the head of state in hell, appointed by Satan. He's like the prime minister of hell. His name is Lucifuge Ranakoner or something.
Excuse me, sir. I'm the Lucifuge.
Yeah, he's like, I'm Lucifuge. What's his name? He's like, I'm Lucifuge. And he's like the president, or maybe the prime minister. I think hell isn't a federal system. I think hell is like a parliament. Because the devil's the king.
You have anything to add to this?
No, it's just I just never knew that. It's very interesting that hell has a government, and that's what that is. If I'm wrong, if you find any, comment down below. But anyway, that's what I know. So yeah. Anyway, okay. Next, number 15, Hrom, as corrected by the band. Legends of Powerheart Part 2.
Hrom.
That's what he said. He told us.
This is a power metal / heavy metal band from Calgary, Canada, on their second album here. As you might have guessed from the part 2, there is a part 1. Check it out. What really stood out to me about this album was I really love this fusion of power metal, which I do not usually like, with heavy metal in this very retro way. Like the speed metal elements keep it very, like speed metal / heavy metal elements keep it very grounded, but the vocals are this very epic, very dramatic power metal, and it's got this fun story you can get wrapped up in.
Saga.
And it's got a lot of like great melodies. Like it's one of those albums, like, you listen to it a few times and then you just see the song title and you're like, I know how that song goes, which is kind of rare with a lot of harsher metal.
It's because of the story. You remember it.
You're like,
the story that he's
yes,
telling you.
Enchanter. I know that song. Anyway.
So yeah, so check out the interview I did with all of these guys, all 5 of them. I'll put the link to that. And if you want an interpretation of Powerheart as best as possible from the source, from the mouths of the creators, check out that interview because I asked them and they explain it. So there you
go. The one in our review is not accurate.
Yeah, I was wrong, but that was what we thought. We have every right to have it, but so. The correct description is on the interview, obviously. So,
ready?
Number 14, Witch Trap with Evil Strikes Again.
Witch Trap. This is another speed metal / black thrash band from, how do we say that? Is that Medellin?
Medellin.
Colombia?
That's where the coke comes from.
Should have prepared my pronunciation. Here with their 5th album. And this album is some raw shit. The production, it's a little rough sometimes, but the pure fucking attitude coming off this thing just, blows that concern out of the water. This album is a love letter to black thrash and all that it stands for. It's got really savage riffs, and the vocals are amazing. They're like some seriously cult shit, these vocals.
With a V.
It's just, I really enjoy. I feel like I can't even explain why I like this record. It like makes me laugh. They're not going to return to hell either. So
that's it. There's a lot of things going on in the album. The album's fun.
So there's a lot of phrases you will get caught in your head when you listen to this album, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Anthems in a way.
But another nice fun fact about these guys is they're kind of like, the originals. Well, not quite the originals. They've been around since the early 90s. We've got a lot of kids running around playing black thrash. They've been thrashing for quite some time.
Like we said, these guys do not support false metal. They say it in their album. Make it very clear on the record. So shout out to you guys, and shout out to you guys for reaching out to us too. And I say to you guys, Muerte al Forzo Metal. That means death to force.
Did you Google Translate that?
Yes. So it probably makes no sense to them in their Colombian Spain. Probably makes no. They're like, what? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Well, even though I'm of Hispanic descent, I speak no. Well, I can understand some of it, but hearing, but I can't see.
I think I probably understand more Spanish than you.
Yes, I just don't,
All right.
Number 13, Witch Tower with Witch's Domain.
Got a lot of witches today.
A lot of witches, towers, and witches.
Ice. Anyway, Witch Tower. This is a heavy metal band from, oh boy, I should have looked that up. Jaén.
I can't read that. I can read some Spanish.
Jaén, Spain. I'm sorry, I didn't look it up.
That's proper Spanish.
And with their 3rd album here, Witch's Domain. This is a very smooth, very classic sounding heavy metal album. We do span a few different styles. We're kind of going from a bare bones kind of early Maiden vibe back from there to early 70s rock.
Just say Thin Lizzy.
Good time.
Just say Thin Lizzy.
Early 70s rock. And like the Lizzy, this band wants to make love to you. This album will make love to you.
Yes.
So,
but however,
you need that in your life.
It's when I first heard these guys, I was sworn they're one of those Swedish retro bands that we always talk about, those Bjorn Too Late bands. But they're from Spain. Think of Thin Lizzy, the guitars of Thin Lizzy, that that guitar sound that everyone's been copying ever since. With Klaus Meine on vocals. To me he sounds like Klaus Meine on vocals. But a much meaner Klaus Meine. Much more dynamic Klaus Meine. Beyond Scorpions,
I do want to make a note here, but their sound does not match this little picture here that we pulled off the Metal Archive.
No, they're way nicer.
They look like a black thrash band right there.
Yeah, that looks like a.
But
yeah. Oh, he's got
they're way more good time. He's holding a skull.
Like a Satan thing. He's got a Satan thing. Yeah. Like a goat Satan thing. Number 12, Nite with a T. Darkness. Silence, mirror, flame. Should they be commas in between?
I feel like you should say that more dramatically.
Okay, here we go. No, we're gonna do it. 12. Night. Darkness. Silence. Mirror. Flame.
Thank you. All right. Nite is a black metal / heavy metal band from San Francisco, California. And this is their 1st album. I do believe they're a bit of a supergroup with one of the members being from Greece and someone else working with High Spirits. Anyway. This is their first album in this incarnation, and this is a very interesting blend of black metal and heavy metal in a way that I've not quite heard before, and it kind of ends up sounding a bit goth to me a lot of the times, but it's got this very dense, very dark, pensive atmosphere, ambiance to it that's kind of like restraining, this very jubilant heavy metal guitar. We've got a guitar god definitely on this album. But yeah, the guitar is being restrained by this like raspy black metal vocal. And the songwriting on this, I think, really is what makes it stand out as well. It's very dynamic. It's engaging. All the songs sound different. They've got, it's a dynamic album.
Yeah, this is like black metal vocals, very just harsh black metal vocals with like rock and roll album, like kind of like a rock and roll.
But I feel like the whole album is tinged with black metal. Like it's
very like light, it's like dark kind of like.
I feel like that's why it sounds goth to me.
Yeah, it's like dark kind of like, it's not like all out like full on like true black metal kind of sound.
No, not at all.
Yeah. It's not like recorded on a Fisher Price recorder sound.
These guys are, they're not in a scene. They're doing what they want to do.
They're not in the scene,
and that's why they stand out to me.
They're nonconformist. So check them out. Number 11, Siege Column with Darkside Legions.
All right, Siege Column. This is a death metal / maybe war metal band, depending on what we're defining that as, from New Jersey. That's where we are, if you didn't know, we're New Jersey.
I make it very clear all the time.
Did you say? I don't know. This is their second album. And what I liked about this album is that it's demented. It's recorded terribly, but like in a perfect way. So it's like perfectly terribly recorded. That's, I think, what the war metal aspect for me. But it's like also groovy at times. It's like you could dance to parts of this album. And it also, but when it goes into like the death metal kind of war metal ends, it's like, it's very pounding and intense. Also, this album is dumb. It is dumb as rocks. The vocals are done by a belligerent drunken beast. And it is raw, unfiltered terror, but it also kind of feels tongue-in-cheek when it gets to those like kind of raucous, swingy, punky sections. So interesting listen, fun time for sure.
Yeah, if you're drunk all the time, with this comment down below if that's true. If it's not, you can counter us. But we think you are. So, New Jersey, the place where metal forgot to die, as I always say. These riffs don't get too extreme as you'd expect based on, the album artwork cover. Siege Column left some wiggle room for some catchy riffs and beats among this chaos they call an album. Death metal usually doesn't have time to let you enjoy yourself. So these guys have that special thing going for them because they're from New Jersey. The place where metal forgot to die. Number 10, Natur, spelled like Natur. Afternoon Nightmare.
All right, Nature. I actually don't know how to say it. I am wearing their shirt, but I don't know how to say the name. Is a heavy metal band from Brooklyn. So another local band for us, basically.
They did metal didn't forget to die, not forget to die in Brooklyn, though.
Much anticipated follow-up to their first album. This is their second album. And we have another traditional heavy metal band. Very catchy guitar work, and it has this very raw and primitive edge to it. They're not going for the very smooth production. They're keeping it dirty. And they have what I really liked about this is this like creepy, pensive atmosphere that the whole album has, while also still being like very banging, awesome heavy metal.
Ominous.
Like I can't even describe how they created a pensive atmosphere while like doing all these insane riffs. So good job.
I like these, a lot of bands doing like a new wave British heavy metal thing, but like darker, kind of bringing that to more of like a darker area, which is kind of a unique thing. So yeah, I like that about them.
That's what an afternoon nightmare is.
Yeah, right. It's afternoon delight. It's afternoon nightmare. It's like,
it's like the bad sex.
Yeah, it's like that could be that if you want. So yeah. Number 9, Gulch with Impenetrable Cerebral Fortress. Impenetrable Cerebral Fortress.
All right, Gulch. I love that name, Gulch.
That's a very...
It sounds... sounds disgusting, but it's just a gulch.
Very onomatopoeic.
It's fine. It's a natural formation. Anyway, this is their first album. They're a hardcore, kind of death metal tinged hardcore, not deathcore.
They don't say that word.
I mean, it kind of seems like you should put them together, but
that word got hijacked.
It's not it. It's not what we're talking about. From Santa Cruz, California, and this album just can't be denied. This album, it's on here, even though it kind of made me feel old, honestly, because there's something extremely youthful about this album. Like you feel like it's for young people. And I feel like maybe I'm just barely young enough to recognize it and not immediately reject it, like I feel like many older hardcore guys might be, because this is very death metal infused hardcore. So, and I find these death metal elements and their very dynamic approach to songwriting, like the songs do not sound the same, which I think is a very common tactic in hardcore, makes this very interesting and listenable. And I obviously like it more than your average hardcore. But however, this album is only 50 minutes long, so it's hardcore. So,
if they're gonna bring back this classic method of hardcore, like they've done to a lot of genres of music, and this is only the latest in that parade, at least, the least they could do is inject some death black metal riffs that these guys are probably influenced by growing up. I like 15-minute records. I think most records should probably only be 15 minutes. That's amazing. That is a huge talent, and these guys could pull that off and make such an effective album. So yeah, Gulch, this is a very cool album. So it's the way hardcore needs to be. Number 8, Midnight with Rebirth of Blasphemy.
All right, Midnight. This is speed metal or black and roll, perhaps. Black rock and roll from Cleveland, Ohio. Did you know this is a one-man band? I'm sure you did. This is his 4th album. Here it is. Now, okay. This is what every time I hear when a Midnight album comes out. But say what you will about comparisons to Satanic Royalty, but you cannot deny that this album is a tight 30 minutes of all fucking good songs that sound different. Okay. And Athnar is a master of his very specific craft at this point, which is kind of making mostly dumb songs with maybe like a slight modicum of depth, depending on how you look at them, but perform with this very raw passion and energy, and most notably personality.
That's why I like dumb songs.
We obviously love dumb shit.
I don't like too many notes. I like the opposite of too many notes, and I don't like sonic terror. Like this is neither of that. No one does the black rock and roll sound quite like these guys with their ferocity. And there's a lot of bands doing this, but these guys stick out for a reason. People even try to steal their look. I'm not going to mention any names, but like that everyone's doing that look now. So get your own mask, people.
Maybe someone else who was on our list.
Possibly, but just get your own look, people. This is his look. Get your own. That's all I gotta say.
All right.
Number 7, Skeleton with S/T.
That stands for self-titled.
Oh, no, I'm dead again. That's stupid. I should have just been Skeleton.
Yes, that would have been correct.
Skeleton.
All right, Skeleton with their album Skeleton. They also have a song Skeleton on here. Skeleton on Skeleton by Skeleton.
Skeletons everywhere.
All right, Skeleton is a black metal / death metal / thrash band from Austin, Texas, here with their debut album. What I really enjoyed about this is I do enjoy people doing their own unique thing, and this definitely strikes me as a unique thing. It sounds innovative to me, but it is also not pretentious in the slightest. We have black metal blast beats going directly into these fun heavy metal guitar lines, and there's this hardcore sensibility all throughout the album, which really keeps it moving and keeps it fun.
What my favorite thing was when I was a little kid? Skeletons. Okay, and there's a lot of skeletons here, so I would love this.
I like the little skeleton boys on the cover too.
Yeah, skeletons.
Look at those skeleton boys.
When they're called skeletons everywhere. Skulls, skeletons. It's one of those perfect names that's been literally right under everyone's nose for the past 40 or so years, and no one's bothered.
I'm guessing there was another skeleton.
Probably like in Italy or something. Some guys that dress up as skeletons. They're like, we got a skeleton.
We don't care about.
But nobody cared. Nobody cared. But we care about these guys. Number 6, White Magician with Dealers of Divinity.
Right, White Magician. This is a heavy metal band from Detroit, Michigan, here with their debut album, Dealers of Divinity. Why did it stand out to me? I mean, this album, these men, they're just magic. Look at them. Look at what they're doing. This is some very true period heavy metal of the 70s variety. It's very catchy. Is performed very convincingly. I think obviously all the performances on this album are awesome, musically, vocally. And what I really stood out to me was just the sheer passion for magic on this album. So
Magic is real.
Magic is real.
For everyone, it's fun for kids. Yeah, this is a good album. You know, this is classic sound. You know, like I said, you know, in the review, kind of sounds like Angel Witch. You know, singer. You know, it's a lot of kind of like classic, you know, ideas of pre-metal done all in one. So
if you love traditional heavy metal and the magic theme appeals to you, I would definitely check
magic
this
theme.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very good aside from the theme, but
perfect for bar mitzvahs. Number 5, Untergang with Aldrig livet. That doesn't
Can we get a check on that?
We'll get a fact check on that.
We need a fact check on that.
I found it. That was not even remotely.
Where did that U sound come from?
Where is Lars Ulrich when you need him?
Do not invoke his name.
No.
Anyway, Undergang. This is death metal from Copenhagen, Denmark, and they are back with their 5th album, much anticipated, and this thing came out on December 4th, so I haven't had a lot of time with it, but I've been very impressed with it, so it's up here at number fucking 5. This album is sick, it is disgusting, it is dank, it is dense, it is a stew of what only could be guts and slime. It is punctuated by horrifying swamp gore creature noises, and it is attempting to turn your brain into gruel. However, I will also say that for a death metal album, it's like it kind of avoids like a lot of the death metal monotony that you can get stuck into. Like, it's got 1-minute grindcore songs. It's got much longer and drawn out 4-minute death metal songs. So it kind of like, it's got an interesting rhythm to it for sure, and it's a very engaging listen. And I look forward to listening to it more, even though I've only had a little bit of time with it. But definitely my favorite death metal record this year. So
it'll melt your brain. It'll melt your brain into liquid, and it'll go dripping out your ears. Untergang most likely represents the limits of all sonic terror in this top 20, I would think. If
this is definitely the most.
It's the highest, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely the most terrifying. It is more terrifying than the other 2 death metal we had on here. So
it's all the way at the limits of usually, you know, what we do.
This album sounds like the feeling of walking in deep mud. Where you might get your shoe caught.
Or no, maybe you
might lose your boot.
Well, in that scene on the Never-Ending Story when the kid loses his horse in the swamp. That might be disturbing enough, though. I don't think that's
reopen
enough.
People's trauma.
That's not disturbing enough for this album.
That's
not even disturbing enough.
Well, it wouldn't be a horse dying in the swamp. It would be a different, more horrifying creature.
He would come out and eat the horse and just tear the horse apart, and those guts come out. That was more.
No, I mean, there is no beautiful creature in the swamp.
Well, he would destroy the.
There is no beautiful horse. There are only horrifying creatures.
The horrifying creature
being sucked into the mud.
So yeah, it's nothing even to like be traumatizing.
Right.
It'd be traumatic for the whole experience.
This is the best way we can describe this music.
Number 4, Cirith Ungol with Forever Black. Welcome back.
Cirith Ungol. Cirith Ungol's here.
Hey.
It is heavy metal from Ventura, California. They're back. This is their 5th album. You wouldn't know it, but it's their 5th album. They're back after 29 fucking years of no albums. They split up. But they were reunited by the elusive Jarvis Otherby. Thank you, Jarvis. I learned in reading people's reactions to this that apparently the vocals for Cirith Ungol are contentious, and that some people write this band off because of them. which I found horrifying because I've actually always loved Tim Baker's vocals.
I was saying like that.
That was actually one of my favorite parts about Cirith Ungol at all times. And this album is a triumphant return for these guys. They sound like they haven't missed a beat. Awesome songs, epic everything, just really, really great heavy metal. It's awesome. You just need to listen to it.
The classic Cirith Ungol.
And a great vocal performance by Tim Baker.
Tim Baker! Ah! You know, he's always been saying, and his voice doesn't change. He hasn't missed a beat. It's just like he left off at the last album made 29 years ago, right? Yeah, I consider it like Cirith Ungol like the American contribution to new wave British heavy metal. You know, a lot of people disagree with me, like, they're not from England. Yeah, but it's still the same idea, you know? And they're also like a real proponent of that second wave of doom following Sabbath. They're one of those bands, you know, they represent a unique pocket of music that existed back then. But like I said before, it sounds like they just came back without missing a beat. It's like they just made their next album, but it's like 29 years ago. That's what it sounds like to me. They're still doing the same thing.
So if you like Cirith Ungol, I mean, just fucking, you know, it's your number one.
Listen to that!
It's our number 4, but
yeah, it's, you know.
I still loved it.
Yeah, it's more bands like this, you know, old man bands need to come back making old sounding stuff. Number 3, Malokarpatan with Krupinské, ohne. I probably didn't pronounce that right.
Should we have a check on that?
Maybe we should have a check. This thing would probably be like fuck you, but yeah, we'll stand by it, right? That was not that.
We're better at Slovakian.
Slovakian's easier than Danish. Dansk. Sorry.
Malokarpatan. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that one correctly because I hear Malokarpatan a lot.
Malokarpatan.
That sounds wrong to me. I like Malokarpatan.
Yeah.
We should ask
He's from the same country.
Yeah. All right. This is a black metal, heavy metal band. You could say from Bratislava, Slovakia, and this is their 3rd album. This was highly anticipated by me. I feel like, you know, I was a big fan of this band already. I feel like they make music directly for me, so thank you guys. And even like just like as a caveat, like I don't usually like music with tons of samples, and they've always used samples. They use samples a lot on here, but you really need it on this album to just kind of like set this like very like horrifying and also like middle of nowhere Eastern Europe mood to really just as the lens with which to view all the albums, like all these it's like creepy and antique mood, I would call it. And once the samples are done, like the fucking true ass riffs take over, and that's what I really like about Malokarpatan is the riffs. It's the riffs.
It kind of reminds me of like Frankenstein's Castle or something, like something like that. You know.
Yeah, but this album is pure madness. They're sampling from a lot of different styles. Like it's like, you know, we have heavy metal and black metal, obviously. We even get some melodic vocals on this album at parts. It's very interesting, and it's definitely one of those things you've got to listen to the whole thing. You can't just like pick out, you know, one song. You've got to experience it and live through the madness to really understand this album.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this record. This is well orchestrated sonic terror, if such a thing could exist. Lots of chimes and bells and whatnot, and samples, and just very maddening. Perfect for the Slovakian countryside.
That's what's going on there. Apparently, I believe them.
It's in Frankenstein's Castle. Number 2, Spirit Possession, with also the same name as they have the same album title as Skeleton did. The S / oh yeah, that means self-title. So Spirit Possession
is a black metal band from Portland, Oregon, here with their first album. Now, I'm calling this black metal. This is not your true ass black metal. This is your madness, chaos black metal. This album is confusing. It is frightening, while also maintaining kind of a fun, jaunty tone where it harkens back to that kind of punky ass side of black metal, which I really like a lot. This album is so chaotic. You feel like anything could happen at any time while you're listening to it. It's like a freed animal that might attack you, or it might just like caw and like fly away. A freed bird.
Either way, it's not gonna like you.
Like animal. A dangerous bird, though.
Yeah, it's not gonna. It might if it leaves you alone. You're lucky.
I really enjoy the drumming on this. There's a lot of interesting rhythms, very interesting riffs. Like it's fun, but it's also like very sonic terror as well.
Sonic terror.
And I like being confused. It's a confusing record. So
It'll confuse you.
I like this a lot. I can't even describe, honestly, this record very well. I really liked it.
Number 1.
Number 1? What could it be?
Number 1.
Number 1, my favorite album of the year.
Bütcher with 666 goats carry my chariot. 666.
I think you should say that
goats.
more dramatically.
Number 1. Bütcher with 666 goats carry my chariot. 666 goats carry my
Just say it a little more culty. Come on.
666 goats carry my chariot.
There we go. All right. What does this look like to you? You're probably right. It's speed metal, black thrash from Antwerp, Belgium. I can't think of this place. Bütcher. They're here with their second album, and we did it. we found the perfect speed metal album. I might be hyperbole here, but I mean it really is. I mean, from everything, from like the cover, like this beautiful cover, to the album name, to this promo photo, and not to mention the music itself, obviously. I think half the songs are literally about the speed metal wheel. Like, that's the lyrical theme of the album. And I can't overstate how fun this album is. It's very intense and blistering and irreverent. And I just love this album. I feel like this is just exactly what I needed for the year. And thankfully it came out early in the year, so I've had it for a long time with me.
The speed metal wheel as a throwing weapon. You can kill somebody with it. It's now weaponized, the speed metal wheel. The low countries, like Belgium, we call them the low countries. Not that they're low, but they call them the low countries, right? They're known for metal bands, really. So, there's that too. And, I'm trying to find a consistent theme with this record. Sort of like a concept, but
it's metal.
Yeah, it's really metal. It just covers all things metal. Like all the songs are kind of just things you think about metal. It's not really any specific theme. It's just metal. Kind of it covers all things metal. Kind of like the Here Lies Metal podcast. All things metal. So yeah, that's why obviously why these guys are number 1. Yeah.
All right, we did it.
Yeah, that's all of them.
It's over. Well, we have some more things we could do because I actually did a top 45. So that might come out. We'll see how we feel. Yeah, if it's going to come out in some form.
If you know about us and you're wondering why you're on the list, maybe we'll mention you in the future. Just don't lose hope because you were on this top 20. We might have something else for you. So if you're wondering,
giving out some awards, perhaps.
Yeah, there's other awards to be given out. It's not all about a top 20. Sometimes,
And again, top 20 of bands that just reached out and touched me, and made me feel good this year. And obviously, I think they all have musical merits as well. But I think there's a reason, whether it's just their relative obscurity or, I don't know, trends or whatever, that a lot of these aren't appearing on other lists. But they're appearing in my heart. So that's why they're here.
So anyway, we'll see you with this kind of thing next year. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon with another episode of the Here Lies Metal podcast. Thank you for listening. And if you're a band out there, you have anything to say, comment down below. All right. Anything else?
Thank you for watching.
Good night, Merry Christmas.
Thank you for the albums.